All right, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the Utah Jazz. All right, AJ, there was a trade made.
There was.
There was a trade made. We need to talk about it. So let's first start there. Let's go ahead and talk about the trade. The Utah
Okay.
Jazz and the Phoenix Suns made a trade, which involved significant amount of draft capital shifting back and forth, right?
Yep.
The Jazz traded 3 of their less valuable first-round picks in 2025, 2027, and 2029 for the Suns' unprotected 2031 first-round pick. The Jazz GM Justin Zanuck explained the rationale behind this trade, stating that the pick had a minimal chance, like all their third round picks, their worst of their first round picks had a chance of becoming a number 1 overall pick. He said that was a minimum chance. I would argue that there's absolutely zero chance because it's the third worst, and all those it would never be a number 1 pick. So
Correct.
that statement
Very best case would be number 3.
Yeah, so I don't know what Justin Zanuck was saying there, but that's okay. The number 1 picks, whereas the unprotected 2031 is highly valuable, especially with the Suns are struggling that season. Overall, the trade was a forward-thinking move by the team for the Jazz as they rebuild. What do you think their strategy was here?
Oh, their strategy is absolutely in 2031. That is approximately 6 years from now. Kevin Durant will be retired. Devin Booker will be on the tail end of his career. This Phoenix Suns team will be reeling at that point, right? Phoenix's window for success is 100% right now, and what they're trying to do is gain draft capital so that they can target roster upgrades right now as they push for playoff position. The fact is Phoenix needs to win now while they have Kevin Durant on the tail end of his prime. Yeah, I filled mine up. That's right. So I'm just looking at this. Utah wins this trade by a landslide. You realize that, right? Like, and it's funny because at first glance, when I saw this come through, I was just like, why are we trading 3 picks for 1?
3 first-round picks for 1 first-round pick. Okay.
Yeah, terrible idea.
Well, I don't know. I think there's some flaws in strategy.
Okay, let's hear it.
First, the Suns aren't. First of all, Devin Booker's not going to be on that team towards that time of time. He's going to be on a different team by the end.
That's exactly, but that's a good thing.
No, because it depends on what he gets traded for. So
who he gets traded for.
Yeah, Devin Booker is going to get traded before the end of that contract. Mark my words, he's gone. He's not there. They're going to trade Bradley Beal this year for somebody. A lot of people are saying it's going to be Jimmy Butler. So the Suns are going to be a good team. They're going to try to be a good team anyway. And, the Suns are just not going to be that bad of a team in 2031 when you're already giving them 3 of the Jazz's first round draft picks.
Yeah, but all these picks are projected to be late 29, 30, like late first rounders.
Okay, so tell me, with the exception of Victor Wembanyama, Giannis Antetokounmpo, when was he drafted?
Antetokounmpo?
Yeah, late first round.
Yeah, 26.
Yeah, Booker, when was he drafted?
17.
Yeah, kind of later in the first round, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not in the
middle first round.
Yeah. So, and then you also, go down there. Anthony Edwards, when was he drafted? He wasn't drafted overall first pick.
2 or 3, I think.
Was he a top 3? I thought he was a lot lower than that. Who am I thinking of comparing with him?
Yeah, Edwards is pretty high.
Okay. Well, the point I'm trying to make here is that there's a lot of good talent in the end of the first part of the draft. And if you're giving away 3 first round draft picks, and first of all, the one this year and this loaded draft, that's going to be a good draft pick towards the end of the first draft. That would probably be a second round draft pick. I'm sorry, that would not be, that would be in a lottery position next year, right? So the point that I'm trying to make here is that the Jazz will have 3 first round draft picks they're sending to the Suns, especially that 2025. They're going to be entering their prime. The 2027 will just be on the tail end of that, just coming into that prime. And 2029 will start to really see the league starts to slow down for you. Thinking about Keontae this year, right?
Yeah.
So in 2031, I don't expect this team to be as bad as we're hoping. Because the problem is the Jazz thought this way too. Like, oh yeah, they're not going to be a good team. Well, neither was Cleveland. They weren't supposed to be a good team. Right. Donovan Mitchell was not supposed to stay with Cleveland, but he did. And so those draft picks are worth practically nothing now.
They're worth a 2031 first round pick.
Yeah, if you pile them all together, they're worth a 2031 first round pick.
But right.
The Suns are desperately trying to get some draft capital back to fix their team and to help them to rebuild their Not
but
there.
they're trying to fix their team right now, right? They're trying to move these first round picks in part with a player to try to get back a Jimmy Butler
Right.
to help them in position right now.
I guess that's true. So if they're these, so if you're saying these are draft picks that they're going to shift as draft capital,
Exactly.
that would make sense.
Yes.
Okay, then I'm kind of on board
That's
with it.
100% what they're doing.
Okay, I kind of like that. Then you got me convinced there. I appreciate that.
That's what I'm here for.
That helps me a lot.
I'm here to talk you off the ledge, Darren.
That's great. That's good.
Yeah.
Between that and the whiskey, I'm good to go. But yeah, so when it comes to that, there's a few other things that I wanted to comment on that. What else do you got on this before I jump into that?
No, I mean that's exactly it though, right? Like I mean Utah's winning this trade by if there's any potential that this is a number 1 pick, anywhere near a number 1 pick, right? This is a completely unprotected pick in 2031. The fact is we don't know what the 2030 Phoenix Suns teams looks like. Nobody does.
Mm-hmm.
Is Devin Booker still around? Who knows? Kevin Durant's most likely not in the league though. Kevin Durant's 35 years old. He's not going to be in the league in 6 more years.
I think he's older than that.
37, 38.
I think he's 37.
Even furthering my point.
Yeah,
You know what I
around
mean?
in 2 years.
Yeah. So I mean, the fact is like with where the Phoenix Suns are, they're currently 10th in the Western Conference, right? They're gathering this draft capital purely for trading and moving talent in right now.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. There's just a few issues that I have with it that kind of came up while I was researching this topic, and I want to get your take on it.
Okay.
Before we get on that, folks, let us know what you think in the comments down below when it comes to your Utah Jazz. Do you think the Utah Jazz are winning this trade? Do you think this is a smart move by the team to basically kind of trade away a couple draft picks that were going to be a nothing burger for something that's going to be worth it? We want to hear from you. Also, a reminder, folks, we did just start a channel specifically for you Utah Jazz called Utah Jazz DNA. If you have not yet checked out that channel, this is where all of our Utah Jazz content will be posted first. So if you have not yet, subscribe to that channel, and so you can see all the live stuff that we talk about your Utah Jazz. Not everything makes it to the main channel on our DNA Sports Recap. So if you like what you're seeing, you're watching this on DNA Sports Recap, a link to that channel, Utah Jazz DNA, will be below. All right. So when I was researching this, one of the things that came up there, I was listening to Dave Locke's Locked On Jazz podcast, which, by the way, shout out to Dave Locke, does incredible work. He said something that bothered me.
Okay.
He stated that if you look at this, like this is the first year of our rebuild, which it basically is. I want to unpack that. That statement right there, that worries me. Because David Locke is a guy who's not just a radio broadcaster, not just a guy with the
No.
Jazz podcast. This guy is plugged in.
He's an NBA insider.
He's a Utah Jazz specifically insider. So if he's saying that the Utah Jazz are seeing this as the first year of a rebuild, that means the Jazz are seeing it as a first year of a rebuild. And I've got news for both of them. We are on year 3, my friend. This is year 3
We've
of a
been
rebuild.
bad. We've been real bad.
We have been not good. We haven't been playing to win. Not even trying to, at the deadline, we blow it up and do whatever we can to get worse at the trade deadline every year, not get better. Maybe they tried to get better and they just struck out, which would even be sadder. But I take offense with that one there. Like that we're
Our
talking
banner's
about
not
that.
on.
Oh man, our banner's not.
Rookie.
Seriously, who's running the show? Seriously, what's going on?
Nobody knows.
See, this is more professional. More professional outfits have a producer going on and handling all this stuff.
That's correct. It's just Darren clicking buttons on the screen.
I want to get back to the comments, man, just in case we lost one.
Yeah.
But yeah, so when it comes to that, I don't know, man. That's the thing that bothered me. Where do you think, as far as this team goes, do you see us being on year 3 of a rebuild, or do you see us being year 1?
I think we're probably year about 1.5. Okay. I think the Jazz really realized that they wanted to rebuild about halfway through last season. They realized they had to sign Lauri Markkanen and do an extension. They had too much talent on the team. You know, they realized that early in the last couple of seasons, but they still they weren't convinced that we were good enough to actually be as effective as we were. So I think we're probably about 1.5 years into the technical rebuild, right? So David Locke saying that the Jazz think that we're 1 year into the rebuild, I think is a little bit, I think it's pretty close. Like personally, I think he's pretty close, right? We're probably about 1.5 years into an actual rebuild because for 2 years, they were still kind of analyzing whether we had enough talent to be successful or whether we needed to move the talent for draft assets. They obviously went the move the talent for draft assets route, and we are where we are now. We're in full tank mode. We're sitting star players to make sure they don't get hurt. We're making sure not hurting anybody's ability to be traded or moved. i.e. Jordan Clarkson or John Collins, like minimal minutes. Make sure if somebody puts in an offer, we're like, yep, they're good. Send them.
I like it.
Right?
I heard this really good trade offer where the Timberwolves trade for John Collins, and it actually works out where we get
Mike Conley.
no, we don't
Just
get a
kidding.
player back from them. It's actually a 3-team deal. We don't get it, but
We
we get
get
2
draft
drafts.
capital.
We get 2 draft
Yeah.
picks out of it. But here's my thing about that, man. I will concede that the year after we traded Donovan and Rudy was not a rebuild.
Right.
Okay. Most fans will basically probably shake their hands at their screen or at their phone and be like, "F this guy. He doesn't know what he's talking about. This team has sucked for 3 years straight. We're in the third year of a rebuild." I will concede that we are not in year 1, but we are definitely in year 2. The Jazz had a position. The Jazz came out on fire in that first year after we got rid of Rudy and Donovan,
and won way more than they were supposed to.
So they did try and make some moves at the post, and right towards the trade deadline, it did seem like they were gonna make a push, but they did lose a couple games there. Basically, put themselves out of contention for it, and that's when they trade that out. So I will accept that the first year was, but to think that we're only a year and a half into this, or we're in the first year of this, I gotta say I can't agree with that, man. Once you punted on that first trade deadline, when you traded away all your talent, you trade away Mike Conley, you trade away the minivan.
Joe Ingles,
Yeah,
George
Joe
Niang.
Ingles, not so really too much on that one, but like when you started trading away these players, for draft capital, when you punted that first year, you signaled that going forward that your team was not going to be putting themselves in a position to compete.
Right.
So
And
I would accept
definitely
that.
not to win.
Yeah, I'll accept that first year, maybe not, but those next 2 years, absolutely, they have tried not to win. They were intentionally trying to lose games last year, and they definitely tried to lose after the trade deadline at the year to try to get Victor Wembanyama, and they fell short of that. The other thing that bothered me there is he was trying to compare that to year 1 of the rebuild with OKC. And I hear that comparison all the time from Jazz fans, from Jazz commentators about how the Jazz are trying to do the same model that OKC did and how now OKC is in the third year of their rebuild, right? The problem is in the third year of, they might be in year 3, but in year 1, they had SGA in year 1. We don't have an SGA in year 1.
We have Lauri Markkanen,
who's not SGA. He will not be a league MVP any time in his career at all. So, no offense to Lauri Markkanen, absolutely love the guy, but he is not going to be an MVP caliber player, and we don't have one. We simply don't. There's not a young player on this team right now that we know out the gates that's going to be.
But the thing was, I don't think SGA when they traded for him, I don't think they thought this guy's going to be a star.
Absolutely, they did.
Well, they might have thought that. But I don't. The reason that you move somebody for SGA is because you don't think SGA has the potential.
They wanted Paul George really bad for the Clippers. That's why they traded him.
Right.
They're willing to trade good young talent that they knew was going to be an all-star, at the very minimum, an all-star, to get him, and they did. And he flourished into being what he is now. Maybe not necessarily as good, but they knew very well they had a very talented young man on their team, and they traded him for, to get Paul George.
Right.
So the Jazz have not made that trade. The Danny Ainge has not made his trade that got us
SGA.
SGA, or even Tatum or Brown, or like what he did last time. We don't have that. So continuing to compare this rebuild to an OKC and saying, oh, they're trying to mimic that game plan, it really bothers me because the Jazz are nowhere close to being in the same position in year 1 or year 2 to their rebuild that the Oklahoma City Thunder does, because they're right now in year 3. Sure. Are the Jazz going to be the number 1 team in the league next year? No,
not even close.
Or the year after that, probably not either.
Yeah.
Even if they do get Cooper Flagg and AJ Depensah after that, like, are they going to be the number 1 team? No. So it's just a comparison. Just to me, doesn't make any sense. I don't really like it. It's time for the Jazz to stop trying to model themselves after different organizations and doing the same thing they do, and address what they're dealing with in their own market that makes them unique, and capitalize on that. That's just what I think.
No, I agree. I mean, the fact is the Jazz needed to make this decision to move forward with a rebuild about a year and a half ago, right? Like, Once you move away from Donovan, you move away from Reed, you need to say, okay, straight into the tank.
Yeah,
Move every bit of talent for every single draft asset you can get. Let's go forward. Let's foot down, worst team in the league.
yeah, exactly.
They could have done this 2 years ago and saved a whole year on Laurie's prime.
Yeah, they could have saved a whole year on Laurie's prime. They could have landed Vic. They could have landed Victor. And let's say he desperately wanted to be in San Antonio. That's great. We'll trade you. You know,
Yeah.
so it's going to be in a position there where the Jazz just are again not realizing their market and putting themselves in a hard. They feel like I think the Jazz don't realize they can't play this game the same way as other teams.
No,
They're in a unique position where they have to do a unique things to get players to come here, and they're still trying to play.
it's called draft them.
Yeah, maybe once. I mean, Minnesota's not exactly the destination city of the world, but a bunch of players want to go there. You know why? Because they're winning. So
They're
I think the
winning.
Jazz need to kind of understand that.
And they've got a lot of good former Utah Jazz players.
A lot of good former Utah Jazz players that people actually want to play with.
Yep.
So anyway,
Mike Conley, Rudy Gobert, Joe Ingles, Nikhil Alexander Walker, those 4 of the 5 previous Jazz players.
yeah, the Midwest Utah Jazz
Yeah.
right there for sure.
Yep.
You keep bumping your mic, dude. That's
I'm
gonna sound
sorry.
crappy in the
It's-
audio.
it-
You keep hitting the
It's
cord.
in my way, and I'm excited.
Well, once again, folks, if you have not yet, check out Utah Jazz DNA. It is our Jazz channel for all of your Utah Jazz content. We're going to post all of our content on the Utah Jazz here first. So if you have not yet, hit that subscribe button. Your Utah Jazz DNA. A link to that channel will be below.